My dear friends, tell me honestly, have you ever faced a time in life when you felt everything is falling apart? Work pressure, family issues, financial struggles, heartbreak, and on top of that, people giving you free advice. Don't worry, just relax, smile, relax. If it was so easy, I would have opened a spa inside my brain already. Z audience laughter. But the truth is, life will give us tough times again and again. The real question is not how to avoid them, but how to stay calm, centered, and relaxed in the middle of the storm. So today, let's explore together how to get relaxation from tough times, not by running away from problems, but by finding peace within. Ladies and gentlemen, the first step towards relaxation in tough times is acceptance over resistance. You see, pain in life is inevitable. But suffering is optional. Pain knocks at everyone's door. It doesn't discriminate between rich and poor, young and old, famous and unknown. But suffering comes when we say, no, this should not happen to me. Let me give you an example. Imagine it's raining heavily. You're standing outside, shaking your fist at the sky, shouting, "Why are you raining today? Why on my birthday? Why on my wedding day?" They pause, audience laughter. The rain doesn't care. It will rain anyway. The only thing your resistance is doing is making you wet, angry, and miserable. That's exactly what happens in life. Problems are like the rain. You can't control when they come. But you can always decide, do I want to get drenched in anger or do I want to open an umbrella of acceptance? Acceptance doesn't mean we like the situation. No, acceptance simply means, this is my reality right now. Instead of fighting what I cannot change, let me learn how to deal with it. There's a beautiful line, what you resist persists. What you accept transforms. The moment we accept a tough time as a teacher, our heart relaxes. Instead of asking, why me? We start asking, what is life trying to teach me through this? Think about it. Diamonds are made under pressure. Gold is purified in fire, and seeds grow only when buried under the soil. In the same way, our greatest growth often comes through our hardest struggles. So my dear friends, next time life throws a problem at you, don't say, why me? Smile gently and say, try me, teach me, train me. Because the problem is not here to destroy you. It's here to develop you. My friends, after we learn to accept situations instead of resisting them, the next important step to relax in tough times is to focus on what we can actually control. You see, one of the biggest reasons why people feel anxious, stressed, and restless is because they keep trying to fix things that are simply not in their hands. Imagine you are standing at the airport and your flight is delayed. Now you can complain, argue, or even fight with the staff, but tell me honestly, will the plane fly just because you raised your voice? No, it will take off only when the pilot and the weather allow it. But while waiting, you can control how you use your time. You can sit and sulk, or you can open a book, make a call to a loved one, or even just take a deep breath and rest. The situation is the same, but your experience of it changes depending on what you focus on. This is the secret of peace. Control the controllable. In tough times, instead of wasting our energy on things outside our reach, we should direct it towards what we actually can influence. If someone spoke harshly to you, you cannot control their words, but you can control your response. If the market goes down, you cannot control the economy, but you can control your expenses and savings. If health issues come, you may not control the disease instantly, but you can control your diet, rest, and attitude towards healing. When we fight with what we cannot change, we drain ourselves. When we work with what we can change, we empower ourselves. There's a famous prayer: God, give me the strength to change what I can, the patience to accept what I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. This wisdom, to know the difference, is the line that separates stress from relaxation. Because stress is nothing but carrying the weight of the uncontrollable on our shoulders. And peace comes when we put that weight down. Think about a ship sailing in the ocean. The captain cannot control the wind, the waves, or the storms, but he can control the sails, the direction, and the decisions he makes. In the same way, we are the captains of our own life. We cannot command the storms to stop, but we can adjust our sails. And sometimes, adjusting a little is all we need to survive a big storm. So in your tough times, don't spend your days and nights crying over the things you cannot change. Instead, shift your focus. Ask yourself, what is still in my hands right now? What small step can I take today? The moment you shift your attention from the uncontrollable to the controllable, you will feel a sense of calm entering your heart. Because peace doesn't come when life becomes perfect. Peace comes when we learn to manage life with wisdom, one controllable step at a time. My friends, one of the most underestimated, yet the most powerful tools we have in tough times is our breath. It's so simple that most people ignore it. We think of solutions outside: money, advice, distractions, entertainment. But the truth is, the very first medicine for stress is hidden inside us. And that is the way we breathe. Have you noticed how your breathing changes with your emotions? When you are angry, your breath becomes short and fast. When you are anxious, your breath feels tight and shallow. When you are relaxed, your breath becomes slow and deep. In fact, your breath is like a mirror. It reflects exactly what your mind is going through. But here's the secret. Not only does the mind affect the breath can also affect the mind. If you slow your breath, your mind slows down. If you deepen your breath, your heart begins to relax. I'll tell you a small story. Once a man went to a wise teacher and said, "Master, I am always restless, always anxious, always worried. Please tell me a way to calm down." The master smiled and gave him a very strange instruction. "Breathe." The man said, "I already breathe." The master replied, "No, you exist, but you don't breathe. Learn to breathe properly, and you will learn to live properly." At first, the man thought it was silly, but when he practiced slow breathing every day, he realized that his heart started calming down even in difficult situations. The same problems came, but his reactions changed. You see, when we are stressed, our nervous system goes into fight or flight mode. It is like an alarm bell ringing in the brain. Danger, danger. Even if there's no real danger, our body reacts as if a lion is chasing us. That's why our heart races, our breath becomes shallow, and our muscles tighten. But when we consciously take slow, deep breaths, we are telling our nervous system, "It's okay, you are safe, relax." And like magic, the body begins to listen. The heart slows down, the mind becomes clearer, the body softens. That is why many ancient practices, whether it is yoga, meditation, or prayer, always begin with the breath. Because the breath is the doorway between the body and the mind. It connects the two. If the mind is restless, use the breath to calm the body, and slowly, the mind will follow. Think of it this way. Imagine your mind is like a glass of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, the mud never settles. But if you just hold it still, slowly, the mud sinks down and the water becomes clear. In the same way, the breath is the stillness that allows the mud of restless thoughts to settle. So, my dear friends, in tough times, don't underestimate this small act. Before reacting in anger, before making a rushed decision, before saying words you might regret, just pause and take 3 slow, deep breaths. It may not solve the problem instantly, but it will surely solve the chaos inside you. And when the chaos inside you settles, you will see your situation with fresh eyes and new clarity. Remember, the storm outside may not stop, but if you learn to anchor your breath, the storm inside will surely calm down. And sometimes, calming the storm inside is all you need to survive the storm outside. My dear friends, there is a very thin line between detachment and escape. And in tough times, most people confuse the two. When pain comes, when failures hit, when relationships hurt, the natural temptation is to run away. We escape into distractions, into endless scrolling on our phones, into food, into overworking, sometimes even into addictions. Why? Because we think that if we avoid facing the problem, maybe the pain will go away. But let me tell you, escape does not solve anything. It only delays healing. It's like having a wound on your hand, and instead of treating it, you just cover it with a glove and pretend it's not there. For a while, nobody sees it. For a while, even you may forget it. But underneath, the wound is still there, and slowly it gets worse. Detachment, on the other hand, is very different. Detachment does not mean you run away from reality. It means you choose not to let reality control your peace of mind. It means you face the problem with full awareness, but you do not allow yourself to drown in it. Imagine standing in front of a fire. If you run straight into it, you get burned. That is escape into pain. If you pretend the fire doesn't exist, you are fooling yourself. That is denial. But if you stand at a safe distance and observe the fire, you see it clearly, you feel its heat. But you are not consumed by it. That is detachment. There's a story of a king who once asked his wise minister, "How do I stay calm in difficult times?" The minister took the king to a river. The water was flowing fast. He put his hand in and held it tightly against the current. The harder he held, the more the water pushed, the more his hand hurt. Then he loosened his grip and simply let his hand flow with the water. The resistance ended, the pain stopped. He looked at the king and said, "Problems are like this river. If you fight against them, you hurt yourself. If you escape, you drown. But if you detach and flow, you stay at peace." Detachment means you see pain, but you don't become pain. You see failure, but you don't label yourself as a failure. You see rejection, but you don't lose your worth. Tough times test our ability to separate who we are from what we are going through. You are not your problem. You are not your stress. You are not your heartbreak. These are experiences. They come and they go. But the real you is far deeper, far stronger, and far calmer. Look at the lotus flower. It grows in muddy water. The mud surrounds it from all sides, yet the lotus remains untouched, pure and beautiful. That is detachment. The mud is still there. The lotus is not running away from the mud, but the mud cannot stain it. So when you are in tough times, don't run away into unhealthy escapes. Sit with your pain. Acknowledge it, but don't identify with it. Detach from the chaos. Breathe, observe, and you will notice slowly the problem loses its power over you. You become like the lotus, surrounded by mud, but never defined by it. And that, my friends, is true relaxation in tough times. Not pretending life is perfect, but learning to stay peaceful in the middle of imperfection. My dear friends, if there is one master key that can open the doors of peace in the middle of life's storms, it is gratitude. Gratitude is not just saying thank you with your lips, It is a deep inner attitude that changes the way we see everything. In tough times, our mind has a natural habit. It zooms in only on what is going wrong. The loss, the rejection, the failure, the lack. And the more we focus on what's missing, the heavier our heart feels. Gratitude flips the lens. It doesn't deny the pain, but it reminds us that even in darkness, there is still some light. Think of electricity. If you enter a room at night and switch on the light, immediately the darkness goes away. Gratitude is like that switch. The moment you turn it on, even little, the darkness of worry starts to fade. For example, you may have lost your job. That's painful, no doubt. But gratitude reminds you, I still have my health. I still have my family. I still have my skills. I still have my life. When you start counting what's left, the loss doesn't crush you as much. There's a story I once heard of a man who was always unhappy. He complained about everything: his food, his clothes, his home, his work. One day, his teacher told him to write down all his complaints on one side of a paper. The man filled it quickly. Then the teacher told him, "No, write down what you do have." At first, the man struggled. But as he thought, he began writing good eyesight, 2 hands, 2 legs, fresh air, water, family, friends. By the end, that list was much longer than his complaints. The teacher smiled and said, "You see, the problem is not that your life is empty. The problem is that your attention is empty." Or gratitude is shifting attention. When you focus on blessings, you realize you are already richer than you thought. Gratitude also changes your energy. Have you noticed how people who complain all the time carry heavy energy? They drain you. And people who are grateful, even in struggle, carry light energy. They uplift you. Gratitude doesn't just relax you, it relaxes everyone around you. There is even science behind this. Studies show that people who practice gratitude daily sleep better, have lower stress, and even stronger immunity. Why? Because gratitude tells your brain, you are safe, you are supported, you are not empty, and the brain responds by calming down the stress response. Now, some may say, but how can I be grateful when my life is falling apart? My friends, gratitude does not mean ignoring pain. It means that along with pain, you also acknowledge the good. The mind can hold both. You can cry for your loss and still smile for what remains. Gratitude does not cancel pain, but it balances it with perspective. Look at the sunrise. Every day the sun rises without fail. How many of us thank the sun? Look at your breath. Every moment, air flows in and out, keeping you alive. How many of us remember to thank life for that? We keep waiting for big miracles. But the truth is, we are already surrounded by daily miracles. Gratitude is simply the art of noticing them. So the next time you go through tough times, try this small practice before you sleep. Write down 3 things you are grateful for that day. They don't have to be big. It could be a good meal, a kind smile, a moment of laughter, or even just the fact that you survived another day. Slowly, this practice trains your mind to look for light even in darkness. Gratitude is like a lamp. It may not remove all the shadows of life, but it gives you enough light to walk without fear. And that, my friends, is how gratitude becomes your source of relaxation in the toughest times. My dear friends, one of the greatest sources of strength and relaxation in tough times is faith in a bigger picture. When life hits us hard, the first question we often ask is, why is this happening to me? We feel punished, abandoned, or unlucky. But faith whispers something very different. Faith says, what if this moment of pain is part of a larger story you cannot see right now? What if this is not the end, but a bend in the road? Think about a child in school. The teacher gives him tough homework, difficult exams. The child may cry, "Why are you making me suffer?" But the teacher knows this struggle is preparing the child for the next class, the next level. In the same way, the struggles of life may feel unnecessary, but faith tells us they are preparation, not punishment. There's a story of a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors came and said, "Oh no, such bad luck." The farmer calmly said, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned with 5 more wild horses. The neighbors exclaimed, "Wow, such good luck." The farmer again said, "Maybe." Later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, fell, and broke his leg. The neighbors cried, "Such bad luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." A week later, the army came to recruit young men for war, but they spared the farmer's son because of his broken leg. Now the neighbors said, "Such good luck." The farmer smiled and repeated, "Maybe." What does this story teach us? That what looks like a setback today may turn out to be a blessing tomorrow. Faith means trusting that the dots of our life will connect, even if we cannot see how right now. Sometimes, life is like standing too close to a painting. From up close, all you see are messy brushstrokes. You may think, "This makes no sense," but when you step back, you see the whole picture, the colors, the design, the beauty. Faith is that stepping back. Faith is believing that even your messy strokes are part of a masterpiece in progress. When we lack faith, every problem feels like a full stop. My life is over. Nothing good can happen now. But when we live with faith, we see problems as commas. Yes, this is a pause, a challenge. But the sentence of my life is still being written. And my friends, no story ends with a comma. Faith also brings relaxation because it teaches us surrender. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack up a mountain. You are sweating, struggling, exhausted. Then a strong guide comes and says, "Let me carry it for you." Faith is handing over that heavy load to a higher power. Call it God, destiny, the universe, or simply life itself. When you surrender, you are no longer walking alone. That's why faith feels so light, so peaceful. I remember once a young boy asked his father to take him across a busy street. The father held his son's hand tightly, but halfway through, the boy panicked, loosened his grip, and almost slipped. The father quickly caught him firmly and said, "Son, don't rely on your grip on me. Rely on my grip on you." That's what faith is. It is not about how strong we are holding on to life, but how strongly life is holding on to us. So, in your darkest hours, remind yourself this moment is not the whole story. Trust that there is a bigger picture being painted. Believe that every setback has a hidden setup for a comeback. And even if you cannot see the road ahead, have faith that the journey is leading you somewhere meaningful. Because when faith fills your heart, fear leaves your mind. And that, my friends, is one of the deepest forms of relaxation you can experience in tough times. My dear friends, there is a secret pathway to relaxation during tough times that very few people talk about. Most of us, when life gets hard, collapse into ourselves. We think only about our pain, our stress, our struggles, and naturally so, it feels like the whole world is falling on our head. But here's the paradox. The more we keep staring only at our pain, the bigger it feels. And sometimes, the quickest way to reduce that pain is to take our eyes off ourselves and look at someone else who is struggling. That is the power of serving others. Service doesn't mean you need to be a millionaire donating billions. Service doesn't mean you have to solve the world's problems overnight. Service simply means this: using whatever you have, time, energy, words, kindness, to lighten someone else's burden. And strangely, when you help others, you end up healing yourself. I'll share a small story. A man once lost everything in business: money, reputation, peace of mind. He fell into depression. One day, his mentor advised him, go to the hospital every morning and just spend time with patients who have no family visiting them. The man thought, how will this help me? I have my own problems. But out of respect, he went. Day after day, he sat with patients, listened to them, comforted them, even cracked a few jokes. Slowly, he noticed something surprising. His own depression started lifting. His financial problems were still there, but his heart felt lighter. Why? Because by serving others, he had shifted the focus from my pain to their need. And in serving them, he realized his life still had meaning. Psychologists today confirm this truth. Acts of kindness release hormones like oxytocin and endorphins in the brain. These are natural, feel-good chemicals. That's why helping others makes you feel calm, happy, and relaxed. It's like life's built in reward system for compassion. Think of it this way: when your house is dark and you light a candle for someone else, it not only gives them light, it also lights up your own house. Helping others is like lighting candles. You spread light, and at the same time, you receive light. Even in the smallest ways, service works. Listening patiently to a friend who is sad, feeding a hungry person, encouraging a student, helping your parents with chores, or even sending a kind message to someone who feels alone. These little acts don't just help them. They relax you because they remind you that your life has value beyond your struggles. Sometimes, tough times make us feel powerless, but service gives us power. You may not be able to change your situation immediately, but you can change someone else's moment with your kindness. And when you see their smile, their relief, their gratitude, you realize that your existence still matters. And my dear friends, isn't that the greatest source of relaxation? To know that even in your weakest hour, you still have the ability to give. You are still capable of making a difference. You are not useless. You are not hopeless. You are needed. So the next time you feel crushed by life, don't close the doors and hide. Step out, look for someone you can serve, even in the smallest way. Because when you lift someone else, you are unknowingly lifting yourself. And that is how serving others becomes a medicine, not just for their pain, but also for your own.